conversation. And excuse me, like if I pause at some points, because I do have like a little cold, but I do have my hot water here, and don't worry about me screening my eyes, because I have a candle lit right next to me. So I also, in the spirit of Fahrenheit 451, with the firefighters burning books, we have a lighter in the spirit. We have our trusty lighter because, as you all may know, or you may not know, the premise of this book is a dystopian future where books are banned. People are not supposed to be reading books. So they have firefighters who specialize in burning books, and it's illegal to have books. And if you're caught with a book, it's all bad things for you. So let's start. Let's start in the book. So, Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. And I won't waste y'all time like continuing to ramble, because I know that gets a bit annoying to me. So, chapter 1, The Hearth and the Salamander. And if I pronounce any words wrong, please excuse me. And if there are any curse words in the books, I don't personally curse, so I won't be saying those words. If you don't like it, then I apologize, but I don't curse. Chapter 1, The Hearth and the Salamander. It was a pleasure to burn. It was a special pleasure to see things eaten, to see things blackened and changed. With the brass nozzle in his fist, with this great python spitting his venomous kerosene upon the world, the blood pounded in his head, and his hands were the hands of some amazing conductor, playing all the symphonies of blazing and burning to bring down the tatters and charcoal ruins of history. With his symbolic helmet numbered 451 on his stolid head, and his eyes all orange flame with the thought of what came next. He flickered the igniter, and the house jumped up in a scorching fire that burned the evening sky red and yellow and black. He scrolled in a swarm of fireflies. He wanted, above all, like the old joke, to shove a marshmallow on a stick in the furnace, while the flapping pigeon-wing books died on the porch and lawn of the house, while the books went up in the sparkling whirls and blew away on the wind turned dark with burning. Montag grinned, the fierce grin of all men, singed and driven back by the flame. He knew that when he returned to the firehouse, he might wink at himself, a minstrel man, burnt, corked, in the mirror. Later, going to sleep, he would feel the fiery smile still gripped by his face muscles in the dark. It never went away. That smile, it never ever went away. As had sprung up from nowhere, as if someone had called his name. The last few nights, he had the most uncertain feelings about the sidewalk just around the corner here, moving in the starlight towards his house. He had felt that a moment prior to his making the turn, someone had been there. The air seemed charged with a special calm, as if someone had waited there quietly, and only a moment before he came, simply turned to a shadow and left him through. Perhaps his nose detected a faint perfume. Perhaps the skin on the back of his hands on his face felt the temperature rise at this one spot, where a person standing might raise the immediate atmosphere 10 degrees for an instant. There was no understanding it. Each time he made the turn, he saw only the wide, unused, buckling sidewalk, with perhaps, on one night, something vanishing swiftly across the lawn before he could focus his eyes or speak. But now tonight, he slowed almost to a stop, his inner mind reaching out to turn the corner for him. I heard the faintest whisper, breathing. Or was the atmosphere compressed merely by someone standing very quietly there, waiting? He turned around the corner. The autumn leaves blew over the moonlit pavement in such a way as to make the girl who was moving there seem fixed to a sliding walk, letting the motion of the wind and the leaves carry her forward. Her head was half bent to watch her shoes stir the circling leaves. Her face was slender and milk white, and in it was a kind of gentle hunger that touched over everything with tireless curiosity. It was a look, almost of pale surprise. Then dark eyes were so fixed to the world that no move escaped them. Her dress was white and it whispered. He almost thought he heard the motion of her hands as she walked, and the infinitely small sound now. The white stir of her face turning when she discovered that she was a moment away from the man who stood in the middle of the pavement waiting. The trees overhead made a great sound of letting down their dry rain. The girl stopped and looked as if she might pull back in surprise, but instead stood regarding Montag with eyes so dark and shiny and alive that he felt he had something quite wonderful, but he knew his mouth had only moved to say hello. And then when she seemed hypnotized by the salamander on his arm and the Venus disc on his chest, he spoke again. Of course, he said, "You're our new neighbor, aren't you? And you must be..." She raised her eyes from his professional symbols. "The fireman." Her voice trailed off. "How oddly you say that. I'd have known it with my eyes shut," she said slowly. "What?" "The smell of kerosene. My wife always complains." He laughed. "You never washed it off completely." "No, you don't," she said in awe. He felt she was walking in a circle about him, turning him end for end, shaking him quietly and emptying his pockets without once moving herself. "Kerosene," he said, because the silence had lengthened, "is nothing but perfume to me." "Does it seem like that, really?" "Of course, why not?" She gave herself time to think of it. "I don't know." She turned to face the sidewalk going toward their homes. "Do you mind if I walk back with you? I'm Clarisse McKellen." "Clarisse, Kai, Montag, come along. What are you doing out so late, wandering around? How old are you?" They walked in a warm, cold, blowing night on a silvered pavement. snow in the moonlight, and he knew she was working his questions around, seeking the best answers she could possibly give. Well, she said, I'm 17 and I'm crazy. My uncle says the two always go together. When people ask your age, he said, always say 17 and insane. Isn't this a nice time of night to walk? I like to smell things and look at things, and sometimes stay up all night walking and watch the sunrise. They walked on again in silence, and finally she said, thoughtfully, you know, I'm not afraid of you at all. He was surprised. Why should you be? So many people are afraid of firemen, I mean. But you're just a man after all. Period. He saw himself in her eyes, suspended in two shiny drops of bright water, himself dark and tiny in fine detail. The lines about his mouth, everything there, as if her eyes were two miraculous bits of violet amber that might capture and hold him intact. Her face, turned to him now, was fragile, milk crystal with a soft and constant light in it. It was not the hysterical light of electricity, but what? But the strangely comfortable and rare and gently flattering light of the candle. One time, as a child, in a power failure, his mother had found and lit a last candle, and there had been a brief hour of rediscovery of such illumination that space lost its vast dimensions and drew comfortably around them, and they, mother and son alone, transformed, hoping that the power might not come on again too soon. And then Clarisse McCullen said, do you mind if I ask, how long have you worked at being a fireman? Since I was 20, 10 years ago. Do you ever read any of the books you burn? He laughed. That's against the law. Oh, of course. It's fine work. Monday, burn Malay. Wednesday, Whitman. Friday, Faulkner. Burn them to ashes. Then burn the ashes. That's our official slogan. They walked still further, and the girl said, is it true that long ago firemen put fires out instead of going to start them? No. Houses have always been fireproof. Take my word for it. Strange. I heard once that a long time ago, houses used to burn by accident, and they needed firemen to stop the flames. He laughed. She glanced over quickly. Why are you laughing? I don't know. He started to laugh again and stopped. Why? You laugh when I haven't been funny, and you answer right off. You never stop to think what I've asked you. He stopped walking. You are an odd one, he said, looking at her. Haven't you any respect? I don't mean to be insulting. It's just I love to watch people too much, I guess. Well, doesn't this mean anything to you? He tapped the numerals 4, 5, 1, stitched on his charcoal sleeve. Yes, she whispered. She increased her pace. Have you ever watched the jet cars racing on the boulevards down that way? You're changing the subject. I sometimes think that drivers don't know what grass is or flowers because they never else you don't. There's dew on the grass in the morning. He suddenly could remember if he had known this or not, and it made him quite irritable. And if you look, she nodded at the sky. There's a man in the moon. He hadn't looked for a long time. They walked the rest of the way in silence, hers thoughtful, his a kind of clenching and uncomfortable silence, in which he shot her accusing glances. When they reached her house, all his lights were blazing. What's going on? Montag had rarely seen that many house lights. Oh, just my mother and father and uncle sitting around talking. It's like being a pedestrian, only we're... My uncle was arrested another time, did I tell you? For being a pedestrian. Oh, we're most peculiar. But what do you talk about? She laughed at this. Good night. She started up her walk. Then she seemed to remember something and came back to look at him with wonder and curiosity. Are you happy? She said. Am I what? He cried, but she was gone, running in the moonlight. Her front door shut gently. Happy of all the nonsense. He stopped laughing. He put his hand in the glove hole of his front door and let it know his touch. The front door slid open. Of course I'm happy. Why does she think I'm not? He asked the quiet rooms. He stood up at the ventilator grill in the hall and suddenly remembered that something lay hidden behind the grill. Something that seemed to peer down at him now. He moved his eyes quickly away. What a strange meeting on a strange night. He remembered nothing like it, save one afternoon a year ago when he had met an old man in the park and they had talked. Montag shook his head. He looked at the blank wall. The girl's face was there, really quite beautiful in memory. Astonishing, in fact. She had a very thin face, like the dial of a small clock, seen faintly in a dark room in the middle of the night, when you waken to see the time and see the clock telling you the hour and the minute and the second, with a white silence and a glowing, all certainty and knowing what it has to tell of the night passing swiftly on toward further darknesses, but moving also toward a new sign. What? Asked Montag of that other self, the subconscious idiot that ran babbling at times, quite independent of will, habit, and conscience. He glanced back at the wall. How like a mirror to her face. Impossible for how many people did you know that refracted your own light to you? People were more often. He searched for a simile, found one in his work, torches, blazing away until they whiffed out. How rarely did people's faces take of you and throw back to you your own expression, your own innermost trembling thought. What incredible power of identification the girl had. She was like the eager watcher of a marionette show, anticipating each flicker of an eyelid, each gesture of his hand, each flicker of a finger, the moment before it began. How long had they walked together? 3 minutes? 5? Yet how large that time seemed now. How immense a figure she was on the stage before him. What a shadow she threw on the wall with her slender body. He felt that if his eye itched, she might blink, and if the muscle of his jaw scratched imperceptibly, she would yawn long before he would. Why, he thought, now that I think of it, she almost seemed to be waiting for me there in the street, so late at night. He opened the bedroom door. It was like coming into the cold, marbled room of a mausoleum after the moon had set, complete concentrate. The room was not empty. He listened. The little mosquito delicate dancing hum in the air, the electrical murmur of a hidden wasp, snug in his special pink warm nest. The music was almost loud enough so he could follow the tune. He felt his smile slide away, melt, fold over and down on itself like a tall old skin, like the snuff of a fantastic candle burning too long, and now collapsing, and now blown out. Darkness. He was not happy. He was not happy. He said the words to himself. He recognized this as the true state of affairs. He wore his happiness like a mask, and the girl had run off across the lawn with the mask, and there was no way of going to knock on her door and ask for it back. So that is where I'm gonna stop for this video. I just kind of wanted to give it a shot of reading to see how you guys would like it, and if you guys liked it at all, and if you guys want me to continue to read the book, I'm more than happy to do that. This is only like the first chapter, but since I'm sick and I keep sniffling, I don't want to be like rude and be sniffling all up in your ears, so that's why I'm choosing to stop too, because I want to do it when I'm feeling a bit better. And if y'all like this like darkness like of how this looks, then I'll definitely keep this same thing. I think it definitely sets the mood, especially with my little candle, which is scented by warm apple pie. So if y'all like this, please let me know. If y'all want me to read another book from my collection, I'll definitely do that. But thank y'all for watching,